All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's exciting to see a few familiar faces and also some new ones. So my name is Kelsey Davis, and I'm an environmental consultant for TDEC's Office of Sustainable Practices, and I'm also a true zero waste advisor. And I'm really excited to be able to speak to you guys today about the topic of zero waste. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I love being able to share my knowledge and hopefully encourage others to be able to become passionate about it as well. Today, specifically, I'm going to be talking about our Zero Waste Tennessee program at TDEC and how our office is working to help educate the state on zero waste practices through this program. And we're also going to be talking about several different resources and businesses across the state that are available to you guys to help you get started on your zero waste journey. But before we get started, I think Caleb has some housekeeping topics that we need to run through.
Yeah, thanks, Kelsey. So just to let everybody know, you are muted upon entry to reduce the amount of background noise. We actually had a record number of registrants, so there's lots of people that are plan on attending, so we didn't want a lot of background noise. And so, but one of the benefits of a live webinar is being able to answer those questions that you might have for our speakers and for our experts. So please make sure that if you have questions or comments about anything that we're going over today, that you send those in the chat box. I'm actually sending those right now, or a chat to everyone right now. You should be seeing that over on your right-hand screen, right hand of the screen. It basically just says this is a chat box to show you where that is. Now, whenever you are sending a chat, there is a drop-down box that shows all the names of the people that are a part of the webinar, so you can, essentially DM people that are on the webinar during the time. But if you want to make sure that our presenters or our host, Kelsey, receives that question to get it answered, just make sure that the word all or the word host is in one of those choices that you choose from the drop down. But other than that, if you have any audio or video issues, you can send those questions to me in the chat box as well, and I'll help you get those done. So this is also being recorded and will be put on our website and our YouTube for people to use and share. But yeah, that's all that I've got.
All right, so let's get started. So first, it's really important to begin by discussing what actually is zero waste. I think zero waste for a lot of folks is really intimidating, just the goal of having absolutely zero. But really, zero waste, the concept as a whole, is really a perception change. It requires rethinking what we have traditionally regarded as garbage and treating all of our materials as valued resources instead. Zero waste really entails shifting our consumption patterns, making more conscious purchasing decisions, and maximizing the reuse of materials at the end of their useful life. Zero waste includes eliminating or preventing waste at the source and implementing waste reduction strategies further up the supply chain, such as reduction, reuse, recycling, and even composting. Zero waste is a really interesting concept because in nature, there's no thing as waste. The byproduct of one system is a feedstock for another system. Only humans generate what we refer to as waste. So zero waste principles promote the highest and best use of these materials to eliminate that unnecessary waste and the byproducts of that waste, which is typically pollution. So by adopting some of these principles that we're going to talk about today, we can greatly reduce our impact on Tennessee's natural resources, preserve them for future generations, and even save our local communities and our state tax dollars, because waste is expensive. But ultimately, it's really important when we are talking about zero waste just to note that the true goal of the term is to inspire others to simply reduce and produce less waste. So TDEC, in response to some of the increasing waste management challenges and the need for change in managing that waste, responded by creating the Zero Waste Tennessee program. And this program is really designed to help inform not only citizens but also businesses throughout the state on how to make better choices and rethink the way that we manage our waste, all the way from production to when it ends up in the landfills. So the program includes resources for both citizens and businesses to better understand the concepts of zero waste and also provide tips on how to begin working towards your waste reduction goals. And these resources include things such as determining what can and can't go into your compost pile, or how to begin reducing waste in your everyday life, or even differentiating between what's biodegradable and what's compostable. So why is zero waste important? So I'm a really big numbers fan. I have a lot of stats that I like to share with folks, and I think it's because they're really impactful and they make folks understand, the importance of waste and how we manage it and what's wrong with our system. So I love sharing this stat. It's a terrible stat, but it really gets people thinking. So Americans make up only 4% of the world's population, but we generate 40% of the world's total waste. And Tennesseans are pretty wasteful as well. We generate approximately 6.6 pounds of waste per person per day, which is higher than the national average of 4.4 pounds per day, and nearly triple the global average of 2.6 pounds per person per day. So in 2018, 6.77 million Tennesseans produced 8.1 million tons of waste. So as you can tell, we're pretty wasteful people. And I think a huge reason that folks are, not maybe as conscious when they're throwing things away and having excess and wasting things is because they don't really understand how landfills work, and they don't really understand what happens when they send those things away. The things, never really go away. They go to a landfill where they have an impact on our health, on the environment, and the reason that happens is because landfills are actually sealed. They're sealed for our safety. So the materials that are inside landfills break down anaerobically, which means they don't have oxygen. And so there's two main reasons that this is an issue. First, most people just assume that when our waste is buried in landfills, that it decomposes or it goes back into the soil over time. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The landfills are sealed with layers and layers of different materials that are designed everything to stay inside and for nothing to be able to leak through. It doesn't reach the soil. It doesn't even reach the oxygen. And so we have layers of clay and synthetic and plastic liners. There's pipes and probes and all sorts of things that go into designing landfills that are designed to ensure that no pollution from the landfill occurs. And additionally, for natural decomposition to occur, you have to have the presence of oxygen. So that's how composting works. And oxygen is necessary for those living organisms that break down all of that matter to be able to do their job. And so that's called aerobic decomposition. But once the landfill is sealed, there's no more oxygen. It can't be present inside the landfill, and this results in anaerobic decomposition. So this results in the release of harmful gases, known as greenhouse gases, and the most prevalent gas that is actually released when all of those organic materials break down in the landfill is methane. And the reason that's such a huge problem is because methane is an incredibly potent greenhouse gas, and the more waste that is generated, the more gas is released. The second problem with us sending all of this material to the landfill is that we're missing out on a huge opportunity for the valuable nutrients, such as all of our food waste and yard debris and things like, that have organic material. We're missing on those being able to provide it back to our soil and to, provide additional nutrients to other resources. Instead, we're sending them to a landfill where they can't do that. And so they enter into the landfill and they're basically diverted from being able to fulfill their higher purpose. So that is why reducing the waste that we send to landfills is so important. We're basically taking a naturally occurring cycle that nature has, and we're streamlining it and diverting it into a human process that has unintended consequences such as pollution and greenhouse gases. So this is a chart that I got from the EPA, and it highlights the different methane emissions by source. So methane is a hydrocarbon, and it's the primary component of natural gas. It is also the second most abundant greenhouse gas after carbon dioxide, and it accounts for about 20% of our global emissions. The reason this is such a huge concern is because methane is about 25 times as potent as carbon dioxide at trapping heat in the atmosphere. So it's directly impacting our climate. And over the last 2 centuries, methane concentrations in the atmosphere have more than doubled, which, as you can tell by this chart, are largely due to human-related activities. So you can tell from this chart that the largest sources of methane from human activities in order are oil and gas systems, enteric fermentation from livestock, and then the third highest emitter is landfills at 15%. And so municipal solid waste landfills, which is just a fancy way of saying residential landfills, are the third largest source of human-related methane in the U.S. The methane emissions from our residential landfills are equivalent to the greenhouse gas emissions from more than 21.6 million passenger vehicles driven for 1 year, or the carbon dioxide emissions from nearly 12 million homes powered with energy for 1 year. So that's a pretty huge impact, and those comparisons really kind of help you visualize just exactly what we're doing by sending all of this unnecessary waste to a landfill. Here are some more stats to kind of help you wrap your brain around just how wasteful Tennessee is. So the average annual waste tonnage is 2,524 tons of carbon dioxide daily. And that is based on the total from 2018. If you remember that first stat that I told you that Tennesseans produced 8.1 million tons of waste, this is where all of the comparisons are coming from. So this is the equivalent of 284,000 gallons of gasoline consumed, 427 homes powered by electricity for 1 year, or 536 passenger vehicles driven for 1 year. And that's all in just 1 day. Just 1 day. So that happens every day for an entire year to reach the equivalence of the amount of emissions that are released by the amount of trash that we're sending to landfills. Municipal solid waste landfills receive approximately 69% of the total waste that's generated in the United States, and they produce 94% of landfill emissions. So there's different types of landfills. There are construction landfills, there's commercial landfills, but what that stat is really, telling you guys is that residents produce 69% of the total waste generated, but of that waste, we're producing the highest percentage of landfill emissions at 94%. So we have a long way to go, but there's a lot of room for improvement. So this chart is designed to help us, start on that journey. We have this zero waste hierarchy, and so what it is it shows different ways that we can reduce the waste and prevent it from going to landfills in order of most preferred to least preferred methods. So the most preferred option, obviously, is to rethink by adjusting your behavior as a consumer, kind of think through all of your purchasing decisions and try to limit your impact on the environment by making waste-free decisions. The next one is to reduce, and that's really just being mindful of unnecessary and wasteful items and learning to live without them. Next is to reuse, which is really just giving possessions a second life, and that can be through, creative reuse, maybe repurposing, repairing, or even donating those items and giving someone else a chance to reuse them. Of course, everyone is familiar with recycling, and that is when we use existing products to create new ones and reduce the dependence on, virgin materials and the associated natural resource impacts of those. And then last but not least is to re-earth, which is also just to compost. And, hopefully you can compost any of your organics or any of your food waste. There's a lot of different things that be composted, but that one is really impactful because it diverts the single largest waste stream from landfills, which is food waste. Now this is a really good place to start, but it's important to note that This hierarchy is in order of most to least preferred based on, their impact, but it's not necessary to do every single step along the way to be able to reduce waste. You can choose the steps that are most applicable to you at your current, situation, current location, whatever that may be. And it's important to note that doing even one of these steps can still make a great impact and reduce your overall waste that you generate. So now we're going to go through each of these a little bit more in depth and talk about some of the different examples that you can do to rethink, reduce, reuse, recycle, and re-earth your waste. So like I mentioned, rethinking is the most important step towards the zero waste goals because it actively prevents the waste from happening in the first place, right? So obviously, if you're rethinking your decisions, especially when it comes to purchasing and what you're bringing in your own home, that's going to be the most impactful way to reduce your waste. So I always like to remind people that as a consumer, every single purchase that you make is an opportunity to vote for zero waste. If you actively choose to not bring, non-recyclable materials or choose to purchase in bulk or get items refilled and not bring unnecessary packaging into your home, that's a great place to start, and that's going to have a really high impact. Some examples that I have that I like to use are purchasing items in bulk to reduce the packaging. You can visit your local library or join a book sharing club to reduce on your either electronic waste or actual, paper waste. You can avoid plastic drinking bottles by bringing your own refillable thermos or bottle. I have a water bottle that I bring with me everywhere I go, a thermos, and even, reusable coffee mugs. That way, whatever your drink of choice is, you always have a refillable, non-disposable option. It's always good to stay digital as much as possible so that you can avoid printing on paper. It's not necessary. I take all of my notes on a note app on my phone or on a note app on my laptop, and it also makes it easier to keep up with your notes because you're not losing pieces of paper all the time. And so those are just some of my ideas for rethinking. Feel free to put any good examples that you do in the chat. Always like to share knowledge with others. But next we'll go on to reducing. So just like the hierarchy says, this is really about being mindful of unnecessary wasteful items. So we're reducing the amount, that we're bringing into our homes. We're reducing the amount that we're sending to the landfill. And a lot of these acts that we have listed here as examples, such as finding alternatives, such as disposable straws and plastic shopping bags alternatives to those. Those are all great ways that can prevent large amounts of waste simply by just avoiding it in the first place. And a few examples that I have that I like to do to reduce waste in our lives is to opt out of receiving receipts. I always try to choose a digital copy if possible. A lot of stores have come a long way and will allow you to choose that option, either to get your receipt, through your text or email, and they'll always ask you if you want a printed receipt. So that's great and a really good way to eliminate paper waste, especially since receipts are typically not recyclable. I also like to eliminate the need for to-go and convenience store packaging by just bringing your own reusable containers and travel utensils. Our office, if you've ever been to an event that we work at, we always provide travel utensils and travel straws, and so I keep them with me in my purse. I keep them in the glove box of my car, and that's a great way to make sure that you don't have to end up relying on the plastic single-use disposable ones. We also use reusable washcloths and like fabric makeup removers instead of the single-use disposable wipes. I just keep them, wash them, reuse them, and that way, I'm not creating an unnecessary amount of waste from a single-use item. And then, of course, we bring reusable bags, tote bags, wherever we go, to grocery stores or even just, to friends' houses and wherever to carry things in so that we're not having to use a plastic bag or a single-use bag. So next is to reuse, and there are a ton of things that people can reuse. And this can mean a ton of different things as well. It can mean actually modifying an item or just reusing the same item again and again. You can repurpose the item and use it in a new way. Like I mentioned, you can donate it so that someone else can reuse it. And there are a lot of great donation options in the state that accept, used materials, and there's also a really good option of sharing. So there are rentable, options. If there's something that you're only going to need once, you can always look at just renting it instead of purchasing it, and that way multiple folks can reuse the same item without having all of the waste that's associated it. But one of the best things to do when you're trying to look at reusing is to support local nonprofits and thrift stores that accept items to be reused and resold. And so a lot of different things that I think folks are familiar with donating are clothing and things like that, but maybe some things that folks don't always think about that thrift stores accept, and there's a lot of nonprofits that also accept, are things such as kitchen appliances. Dishes and cookware are something that's always great to donate. Home decor, even your leftover purses, any bags. Toys are always great, even tools. And a lot of places have books that you can share. So in our office we have what's called a green cube, and we have a little section where folks can bring in books so that you can share with others. And that's a really good way, you could maybe start something like that in your office or even maybe your neighborhood, and just create sort of a sharing environment so that everyone doesn't feel obligated to purchase that one item that they'll need that one time. Okay, so now we'll go on to recycle. I got off with the slides there a little bit. So hopefully everyone is familiar with recycling. I think this is the most common and most highly promoted step in the zero waste hierarchy. But if you actively participate in recycling, you're probably aware of some of the challenges and some of the limitations that we have in our recycling industry. Fluctuations in the market make it to where sometimes, your local facility may or may not be accepting a certain item. And so it makes it really hard for you as the consumer to keep up and really understand what's happening. But typically, aluminum and steel is always something that you can recycle. There's always a profitable market in the metal industry. Paper and cardboard has been profitable recently, and that's always something that you should be able to find at your local recycling take-back or your local service provider. It's really when you get into the plastic and glass that you really need to check with your local provider. Always make sure that, they typically have certain numbers that they'll accept. Most plastic, recycling facilities these days only accept number 1s and number 2s, but you may have, especially if you live in a metropolitan area, they may accept all the way from 1 through 7. But the best thing to do is to always just check with your service provider, or in my case, I live out in Dixon County, so we actually sort our recyclables at home and then we take it to our local convenience center. So always just make sure you have a good relationship with them. Read all of the signs. Make sure you're not putting anything in there that is not accepted. You don't want to be, the reason that that particular batch of recycling didn't make it and wasn't able to be, used as it was intended because things got, it put in there that either were dirty or that were not recyclable, and so they had to throw the whole batch out. And then, of course, always avoid non-recyclable items such as styrofoam, plastic film, and then multi-material packaging that usually cannot be recycled. And last but not least is re-earth. Re-earth is at the bottom of the zero waste hierarchy, mostly because all of the other steps have a higher impact as far as being able to prevent the waste from going to landfill. But re-earth is a really unique category in which, even though it's kind of at the bottom, it has a huge opportunity for impact because we send such a large amount of food waste to landfills, well, not even in Tennessee, but in the entire country. So the U.S. actually sends about 40% of all of the food that is produced to landfills. It gets wasted through the supply chain, through consumers purchasing too much and not planning appropriately, and then it all just ends up getting thrown away. Another important thing to think about is that not only food waste can be composted, but other material such as yard debris, shredded paper, sold paper, and even cardboard products, maybe like a greasy pizza box. All of those things can be composted and turned into a more nutrient beneficial product. And so re-earthing has the opportunity to really make a huge impact in a lot of the things that we're sending to our landfills, and specifically the things that are releasing the largest amount of methane. So we have some resources on our website, and I will get to a slide a little bit later on that has a comprehensive list of some of those resources. But these are the ones that specifically relate to composting. So we want to make sure that Tennesseans are aware of the options that they have and be able to really reduce their own waste and make them, capable and equipped to do that themselves. So the first one is we have a residential composting link there, and it provides all the different service providers that have organics either pickup or drop-off locations. And then the next link that we have is a DIY brochure for backyard composting. So, and that's a really good option for folks who live in a more rural or even suburban area that may not have access to a local service provider for compost pickup, but who are still very interested in reducing their own waste and maybe even having some compost to, use around the house in their own garden or flower pots or landscaping or whatever it may be. So those are two really good resources to be aware of. So now that I feel like I've bombarded you guys with information, you may be thinking, wow, that's a lot of information. Where exactly do I start? And so the very first year that we launched Zero Waste Day, we basically hosted a challenge, and we wanted individuals who were new to the zero waste scene to participate and kind of share some of their tips and tricks with us. And what we did is we compiled a cute little video that everyone submitted their ideas, and so we use this every year as kind of an example for folks who may be new to zero waste, or even for folks who may need some new ideas on different ways that they can reduce waste in their own home. So Caleb is going to play that for you guys now. So hopefully that gave you guys some good examples, and you can use some of those, run with them. Again, if you have anything that you use on a regular basis that you didn't see, feel free to share that in the chat. So next we have some different resources that I wanted to highlight. So the first one is this weekend we have different recycling take-back events that are going on. So some of the zero waste and refilleries across the state are hosting these recycling take-back events that are accepting miscellaneous and hard-to-recycle items. We have that information available on our website, and you can sort of see, you know, the different locations on this map and different locations that you can take things such as pill bottles, CDs, small appliances, you know, things that, you know, may not be able to be accepted at your local curbside recycling or your local drop-off facility. We wanted to be able to provide a way to keep those things out of landfills. So if you're interested in that, you can visit our Zero Waste website and kind of search the map and find one that's close to you. And then lastly, I wanted to highlight, these are the different resources that we have available on our website. So we have everything from how to conduct a waste audit, which is really important because to be able to prevent your waste, it's important to know what you are producing the most of. We also have a food waste decision tree, which kind of walks you through what sort of situation you have, whether if it's at home or if it's in your office, and the different resources that are available to you to be able to reduce your food waste. We have organics collection guides, different product label, you know, guides to be able to decide if something actually is compostable or not. So all sorts of good things on our Zero Waste page. But next, we actually have with us today some of the refilleries across the state that are going to help you guys meet your zero waste needs. So first, I'm going to pass it over to Becky, and she is with Bosi Botanicals in Memphis, Tennessee, and she's going to spend a little bit of time telling us about her store, and then we'll have time for questions at the end if you guys have any questions for her.
Thank you, Kelsey. Hi, everyone. I hope you can see me okay. I'm here in my workshop at Bosi Botanicals. We are the first zero waste refill store in Memphis, so we're very proud to be that. We opened November 1st, 2023, so we are coming up on our 1-year anniversary next Friday, so we're super excited to be celebrating that. And our goal is to help provide both products and resources for Memphians to reduce waste in their lives. So we talk about our store as a place for education and a place to get information and then find solutions for things that would work in your life to help reduce waste. So we have a lot of products in bulk. We also have soap that we make in store, and that's actually how I got started. I was making soap and doing pop-up markets around the city, and my soaps have always been in line with the idea of good for people, good for the planet. So I was always finding it important to have ingredients that have the least environmental impact possible and then package it in as little packaging as possible. So we did a pop-up in the mall where we're located last summer, well, July of 2023, and just fell in love with the space, and we decided to go ahead and pursue opening a store. And as we were thinking about, well, what would we do with the store? How would we pair products with the soaps that I make? And then the idea of zero waste came to me. I knew that Memphis didn't have a zero waste refill store, and we've been fortunate to live and travel to different places around the world where we've seen the impact of the global waste problem, and we've also seen a lot of really cool solutions. For example, we lived in the Philippines, and that was the first place that I ever saw bamboo straws. So there was a really big push from entrepreneurs over there to try to find creative solutions to waste. So that's very near and dear to our heart, and that was a big reason why we opened the Zero Waste store here in Memphis. So with that, coming up on our 1-year anniversary, we pulled together some statistics, and in 1 year, we were able to reduce approximately 4,000 single-use plastic items, either by having them replaced, repurposed, or diverted to the landfill. And we got this in numerous ways, both by bars of soap that were sold, shampoo bars, refills that were done, people switching to leaf shave rather than using disposable head razors. So there's a lot of ways that we collected that number. And in the past year, we keep track of people who bring in their own bottles or bring in their own jars. And our customers have made the conscious decision to bring their own bags or bottles over 1,200 times. So we are extremely proud of that number, especially being so new and still trying to gain traction here in the city. And further, we've developed great relationships with citywide and regional and statewide organizations like TDEC to help further the message that we're all trying to get out, helping people come up with solutions that work in their lives to reduce waste. And then we've also partnered with other local makers and businesses to raise awareness about shopping local, and we're part of the Women-Owned Passport again this year, which is a great initiative to help people find women-owned businesses and encourage people to shop small in Memphis. So that is us in a nutshell. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them. Oh,
so I don't see any questions. But I was curious, how do you track your stat about, 1,200 times customers being able to bring in their own containers? How do you keep track of that number?
Sure, that's a great question. So we actually have a reward system, and it's you get points. And so every time you bring your own bag, we give you a point. Every time you bring your own jar to refill, we give you a point. So we just tracked the BYOB points, and that's how we came up with that statistic.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think the rewards programs are something that a lot of the stores have started doing, and I definitely think that's a great way for you guys to be able to measure your impact as well.
Thank you. Erin, I saw your question. Yeah, I'm happy to send that in the chat.
Right. So now we are going to go ahead and turn it over to our next refillery. So we have Amelia here with us today, and she is with CARE out of Dixon, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Amelia Wilson. Why is it like that, Mitchell? Should I look?
There you go.
I don't know why it's not. Okay, head on. I feel like that's weird. But yeah, so our family started this low-impact grocery store in Dixon, Tennessee back in May. And essentially we have just about a little bit of everything in most categories you can think of for your home. We have non-toxic body products. We have all kinds of pantry staples, grains, beans, spices, teas, herbs. We have all kinds of things. We even carry local honey, and essentially we also are, we encourage people to the best of their ability to bring in their own containers, whether it's bags, jars. Some people even bring in like the glass containers you would have store your leftovers in. People bring in all kinds of stuff, which is really neat. So yeah, the idea is that everything is bulk style, and everything is by the pound, and so you can get as little or as much of something as you want, which has also been neat because I think a lot of people that are kind of new to not only clean eating, but even just the way that we have to shop, you don't have to commit to much of anything. If you see some product that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I like quinoa, but they tell me that I should like quinoa, I want to start eating quinoa, you could literally just get enough to take home for one serving and see if you like it. So, we started that just with the idea that we know a lot of people in the community, want to eat differently, shop differently, but how to do that in a manageable, kind of low stakes way. And so it's been really amazing because the community and surrounding communities have loved it. And we also, similar to Becky's BYOB, a month into business, we started a BYOC program, and that's also how we track, people bringing in their own containers. We offer a 5% discount on every single product that you bring, you know, for refilling. And so just since June alone, so about 4 months ago, we have prevented almost 3,200 packages from going to the landfill, which for our small community and only being open not even 6 months, that was remarkable how quickly, you know, because even just 1 month of business, it was still just such a new concept. People were like, wow, this is really neat, but I don't know how to really bring this into my life in a sustainable way and actually remember to grab my, you know, because I feel like most people still even want to bring their own totes to the grocery store, and that's still just a behavior that you really have to just, you know, continue to practice so that you remember. But now it's so fun to hear. We say that one of our favorite noises is the sound of jars clinking, because people walk in with just flats of mason jars now, and we know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to come right in, right next to our checkout. We have the tear station with a scale that is just for customers to weigh their jars or bags or whatever it is they bring, and jot that down for us so that at the end we subtract it, and then, like I said, you'll get 5% off that way. And another thing we love to do and aim to do is source as much as we possibly can from the state of Tennessee. So things like even our maple syrup we get from a farm up in East Tennessee. We have very local honey to us, only about 28 miles from our store. We just started carrying refrigerated and frozen items, eggs, meat, etc., and we're going to continue to grow that, and that is all from farms right in our area that we have, you know, vetted, that just treat their animals wonderfully, you know, clean practices, all the things that people are looking for. So we offer that, and, you know, and if it's not Tennessee, we at least are always looking at just, you know, southeast regions, so we even have dog treats that are made down in Atlanta. So yeah, we're just constantly trying to keep it, you know, as few miles between the products we carry in our store as possible. And then, yeah, the whole low impact, zero waste, as far as bringing your own containers, which, like I said, was amazing, because month one, it was just like, wow, this is the weirdest way to shop. I don't even know how to do this, to, you know, I mean, now, like I said, in a couple months, almost 3,200, you know, packages have been prevented just because people really are getting it. They love it. And we're very grateful that it's working as well as it is. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer those too.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia. So we have a question from Joelle, and I think it's to both of you guys. So Amelia, you can answer first, and then Becky, if you have anything you'd like to add, feel free to. But she's curious if you have any advice to other small businesses that may want to shift to refillable bulk items, or maybe even open their own, you know, refill stores.
I do actually have my husband here with me today, because he is, this is my passion, and I pick all the products and I love it, but he is really the business side of things, so I'll see if he has an answer for that. Mitchell? Yeah. Everyone knows Mitchell's face, no one really knows mine.
Yeah, so bringing the products in and whatnot, it definitely helps to have all the things that they need if you're not doing, or even if you are doing the bring your own container thing, having a way for people to get the products. So we have paper bags and things for folks if they didn't bring their own container. The other thing too that we thought a lot about this before we even opened, but especially since we opened, and especially in Tennessee, most people aren't familiar with zero waste or even low impact shopping, and so a big thing that we strive to do is not, I guess it'd be like virtue signaling or something, not try to make people feel bad that their current lifestyle isn't zero waste or even close to it, but make it low stakes and make it a really easy transition and way to get into it without, yeah, like I said, without making them feel bad about it.
I think that's excellent advice, and having been in y'all's store, I can also add that even being aware of zero waste activities, sometimes you still forget to bring your own container. And I love that you guys provide paper bags, you know, and they're 100% recyclable. Like, everything that you guys offer as an alternative is also either, you know, recyclable or compostable, and hopefully won't end up in the landfill. That's something that we can tell you guys really thought through. Becky,
well, yeah.
Go ahead.
I appreciate you saying that, because we also, we really tried to pick bags in particular that actually could be reused as well, that are like the lined ones with the little, you know, tie down, that are really sturdy. And so what's fun is that we have a handful of regular customers that in the, you know, 5-6 months we've been open are still using those same bags, and they just continue to cross out whatever the product code or whatever it is that they bought last time. So I just think that's so neat because, you know, people are also just rethinking that it doesn't, you know, I mean, depending on what you put in there, but for the most part, you know, the dry goods, you can switch it out. Like, it really isn't making the bag gross. It's not greasy or anything like that. And so it's cool that some people that would have never thought, you know, that was a thing now are totally in the habit of continuing to use these sturdy bags, because that's also, some people also don't want to drive around with clinky glass in their car, which makes sense. And so for them to have the option to just use those brown paper bags over and over again, you know, and just kind of leave them in their front seat is also another easy way that they can come in and get that discount, but also just continue to reuse it and not send it to the landfill, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Okay, Becky, do you have any advice for other small businesses?
Yeah, so I would say a few things. One is I love what Tara's doing, and we actually also have a donation bank. So we allow customers to bring in clean, dry glass jars because in the city of Memphis, that's not currently being recycled. So they get points when they do that, which is us rewarding their sustainable efforts. But it also is an opportunity for people who come in and maybe they didn't realize we're a refill store, or they came in and they forgot to bring their bottles. There's a bank there, so they don't have to purchase a new jar. They can just dig through that and find something that works for them. Another thing that I would say is start small. Like, don't jump into all the bulk products at once, especially if you're in an area where it's like brand new. Figure out what are going to be the most popular items. For us, that's deodorant, it's laundry soap, it's toothpaste tablets. And then if there's other items that you want to test out, maybe test it out smaller first, because obviously if you're going zero waste, you want to make sure that, you know, you don't have a whole amount of bulk that you're wasting. And really find like what your customers are into, and then those are the items that you want to build on and carry in greater amounts in your store. And then last I would say is, you know, look for partnerships locally. So whether that's people who make the products locally, like Tara, we try to source as local to Memphis as possible. We get our deodorants from Little Sea Farm, so they're just in Lebanon, Tennessee. We have teas from people here in Memphis. We have a lot of local artists that we support here in Memphis. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we partner with a lot of organizations, both in the city of Memphis and in the state. So it's important to find the people who will help get your message out too, that you're there, because it is an education process for a lot of Tennesseans when it comes to zero waste.
That's amazing. So it sounds like from both of you guys really thinking through your customers' experience and the containers, and then also partnerships are very important and very vital part of the refillery business. And we have one more question. Do you have any information on the money you save on packaging when customers bring their own containers, I guess, versus you having to supply the packaging?
I mean, I can jump in here. I know with bags in particular, in the beginning, we were giving everyone a canvas bag when they came in for their purchase, in the hopes that it would encourage people to come back and bring their own canvas bags. We're starting to pull back on that now just because the cost is getting, you know, pretty expensive. So we are going to start accepting donations of bags as well, so people can come in and bring their reusable bags, because I mean, a lot of us probably have a lot of reusable bags that just end up, you know, you've got a pile under your sink or you've got a pile in your car. So giving them another space where those can be repurposed. But it will definitely save us on bags several $100s a year on bags alone. In terms of the other products, when it comes to bulk, it really depends on the item. Because a lot of the pricing, at least from our standpoint, you know, if you're buying it in bulk, the pricing is based on that without the container already. But I guess the fewer containers that we have to purchase new and carry in store, that reduces the amount of inventory that we have to hold as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would calculate it, but
yeah, I think we have not, you know, formally calculated that, but I think that's, she makes a lot of really great points. And also, just to piggyback off something Becky said as well, I think now that my mind is, you know, kind of, she helped me think about this, I do think the education part is vital and something that I wouldn't say we underestimated, but you know, you really can honestly never have too much, and also just never give as much grace to people as you possibly can in this kind of lifestyle change, because, you know, again, that is something that I think makes people continue to want to try, and yeah, not give up immediately, because, you know, I mean, we people all the time that come in and immediately apologizing for forgetting containers, and every time I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no need, like, no sorry, because you know, that is that kind of little jolt of shame that you might feel when you walk in. Like, that is just something I do not want associated with our store at all, because that is not why we're doing it. It is truly to just continue to educate and encourage people to make, you know, small steps. Like I said, even if it is just reusing the bags you got in our store, or, like, you know, there are plenty of people that now it is a habit to bring their own things. They figured out what works for them, what they like, which ingredients go where. So yeah, just something that always being willing to educate in a graceful way, and, you know, just really encourage people to just take it one step at a time, because yeah, there's no reason in striving for perfection. All we can do is just continue to make little incremental changes in our life, and I think even just, you know, coming into our businesses period is amazing, because at the very least they're seeing what's possible for, you know, for consumer purchasing, but also just as a business, and seeing like, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if so many stores, you know, kind of switch to this, at least in part, maybe, you know, some of the products to carry doing that. So yeah, I just think that was a great point, Becky, the education part.
Yes, great answers from both of you guys. Appreciate that. We did have one other question that is related to some resources. So, Joelle, and related to your question regarding links as far as sharing and reusing, we will send out an email to everyone who's registered on this webinar, but one of the resources that I recommend everybody check out is our Guide to Zero Waste. And it has a really awesome comprehensive resource key at the end, and there's a lot of different links. So there's different links to other existing platforms, businesses, nonprofits, whatever it may be, that help you reach your zero waste goals. And one of the links is a great sharing and renting site. I do not think it is specific to Tennessee, but it's still a really great resource that I recommend everybody check out. Do we have any more questions for our refilleries while they're here? If not, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for participating. Thank you to Amelia and Becky for being present today, and for really highlighting their passion and their stores and everything that they're doing to help Tennessee reach our zero waste goals. And also thank you to the other refilleries that partnered with us on Zero Waste Day. I encourage you to check them out, find, you know, the closest one to you, and really support them and their initiatives. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you.